71 points. 71 points. Ladies and gentlemen, say no more. We are live in the flesh today. All things Cleveland Cavaliers, episode number 62. Brandon Lewis, Joey Schneider. Joey, you already know what we're talking about today, man.
Oh, Brandon. Oh, Brandon. I thought you were going to come in just absolutely on fire, but I think it's my turn today. I think it's my turn today to be absolutely on fire. Spida, Donovan Mitchell, the man the Cavs traded for this offseason, with 71 points last night in a victory over the Chicago Bulls, their second victory in the Bulls in, 3 days?
Yeah.
Both come from behind victories, might I add, without Darius Garland, without Evan Mobley, and we will get to that later in the show. But today's all about Donovan Mitchell, buddy.
Live in the flesh on a Tuesday night. We usually do not do this, but we wanted to get this out of the way because I'm sure we both have so many thoughts about what transpired last night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Certainly, there's been a lot going on just this week in general, but my goodness, Donovan Mitchell, where did that come from? I mean, I know Mitchell, you had ability. I know you had it in you, but 71, and really the Cavs needed all 71 of those points because they were in a nick and tuck battle, trailing by 18 and a half against Chicago. And that right there, my biggest takeaway from the 71 points. It's not real. I mean, 71 points is obviously a lot of points. He, scored or assisted on 99 points, is the second most ever, next to Will Chamberlain's 100-point game. But the bigger thing here is because obviously we've seen, a lot of superstars in the NBA. We've seen Luka Doncic just scored 60 in the last week. The biggest thing for me with this performance of Mitchell was the Cavs, like I said, they needed all of that production, and it was in a come from behind effort. And he scored over 40 of them in the third and fourth quarter in the second half before you got to overtime when the Cavs really needed it the most, when they were teetering, when they did not come out again, when they did not play well at home, when Mitchell, to be honest with you, struggled a little bit in the first half, did not look like anything was going. It looked like the Cavs were dead at halftime, and boom, out comes this man, putting the team on his back, basically igniting the team, getting this team back. That is the definition of valuable. It is a definition of a superstar. And that was the performance of a lifetime. If I've ever seen one of the greatest, maybe the greatest. And again, I'm not a stat guy and all this stuff. You know that. Everybody knows that. That was one of the greatest single game performances I have witnessed in my young career last night.
I don't think you could put that over the Kyrie, LeBron, each having 40 in the playoffs or in the finals. I think that single game, yes, non-playoff, best performance by a Cavalier of all time, including LeBron.
Oh yeah,
71 points. It is the most points scored by a player since Kobe Bryant scored 80. That is absolutely insane to think about. And you stole all of my talking points. Before the show, ladies and gentlemen, me and Brandon were making sure we had our notes ready, and those were my notes, and Brandon just absolutely blew away what I was going to say. But I want to talk about that. In the first quarter, Donovan Mitchell had 5 points. In the second quarter, he had 11. He went into the half with only 16 points. Mm-hmm. He then caught absolute fire. 24 points in the third quarter, 18 points in the fourth quarter, including that unbelievable shot at the end of the game, which Luka Doncic just did.
Yeah.
A couple of games prior. I can't remember who they were playing, but they're down by 3. They foul Donovan Mitchell to put him at the line so that way he can't hit a 3 because he was just absolutely on fire. He makes the first free throw, perfectly bounces it off the back of the rim, runs around the big men, and gets it, shoots it off of the square and ties the game up to force overtime.
And it wasn't like, he just got it and tipped it in. He caught the ball full-fledged up. It wasn't like he's got it and batted it up. He catches the ball full on catch and puts up a good shot. I mean, he had a great look at the basket. And the fact, I don't know how, really, I feel like this is a missing talking point in this. It's like, yes, he scored 71 points, but how by the fourth quarter was he not weared out from getting the Cavs back in the ball game at that point? He played superhuman, unbelievable effort.
He played all but 3 minutes of the game.
Exactly.
Including well, I think no, he played every minute of overtime too.
I believe so, yeah.
He played, I mean, it was what? I think I don't know how many minutes it was, but I know it was
53 minutes.
53 minutes. He played, yeah, I mean,
that's total. So 50 out of 53 you would play because there'd be 53 if you 40 and 5.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see he was a little gassed at the end of the game, but I think that he, like, the adrenaline was pumping through him so much, he was just carrying him. But that performance, and you're also forgetting that he scored 13, I believe, 13 points in overtime to get him to that 71. I mean, we beat the Bulls by, what was it, 11, 13? Was it 11 points or 13 points?
The other night, you mean?
Last night.
Yeah, 11.
Mm-hmm. So we were down 18 at half, took him into overtime, and then took him to the woodshed.
Exactly.
And the other thing that he had 11 assists and he had 8 rebounds. He almost had a triple-double to go along with that 71 points. This is what we traded for. This was the superstar that we needed.
It's more than we traded for. I mean, that is a performance that some superstars, I mean, there are levels to this. Like, there's only a few guys, in my opinion, that could do that under that situation when, again, really nobody else on the team had it going, and it felt like everybody was dead, and Mitchell was the catalyst to get it going because they were not playing well on defense either. And Mitchell he basically took over that game and refused to lose that game.
And that was something that me and you talked about last week when we were doing our predictions, is that they were going to beat the Bulls back to back because they needed to. And this is exactly what we were talking about. Was I think they listened to the show and they were like, you know what, we absolutely need these 2 games. And Spider went out there, put up 71. He's like, I got to prove Brandon and Joey right. And not only were they 2 big wins, because they could have very easily been 2 losses as well.
Very easily.
But as I said, this is what we were hoping we were going to get in the Donovan Mitchell trade. We were hoping we were going to get this level of play, this kind of superstar. And I think that he's on a team now where JB trusts him. And JB has even said, there's just times where I say, go do your thing and tell everyone else to get out of the way. And the other great thing about Mitchell's play is that even scoring 71, he's not selfish with the ball.
Nope.
He's passing it around.
Great point.
So, like, this is just a performance, as you said, of a lifetime. But I don't think this is going to be the last time we see Mitchell put up these types of numbers again.
I think it helps. Well, it obviously does help a little bit that Garland is out, because I think that then he has to become sort of the primary scorer, because we've seen him and Garland go together some nights and combine for 70.
And that's when they blow teams out by 20.
Yeah. And so I do think you're right. Now, obviously, I don't think we're going to see another 70, but do I think we could see a couple more 50-point performances from Donovan Mitchell this year? I absolutely do. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, though, to me, it doesn't take away. I know some people were trying to take away from it a little bit because it's, we just saw, as I mentioned, Luka Doncic do it. There's been others. Jason Tatum just went off a couple of games ago, I believe, as well. Like, there have been a lot of 50, 55, 60-point games, somewhere in that range in the NBA this year. I read somewhere the NBA is on a historic pace to break the most 50-point games by scores in a single season. Now, again, whether it's just because the talent is better, whether it's just because there's no defense being played right now, I think it's a little bit of a combination of both myself. But early in the year, we kind of saw teams struggle. I feel like a little bit offensively. But over the last month, and maybe some of that, Joey, has to do with conditioning, getting guys back into basketball shape after the offseason. Players know it's 82 games. They don't want to go 180 miles per hour. But I think now, nobody expected as well for the NBA, as we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, to be this competitive balance. And you have to bring your A game every single night, as we've saw with the Cavs these last couple of nights, or you are going to lose. And you're probably going to lose badly if you're not shooting the basketball well. And I think, that was a performance, just getting back to Mitchell to kind of wrap up that part of it. That was a performance where it did not feel like he was ball hogging. It did not feel like he was just shooting to shoot and being down and getting, inflating his stats in a game that really didn't matter because the Cavs were getting killed. He really got that naturally, and it was really entertaining to watch. Sometimes guys get 50 to 55 points and they're like, yeah, he got it, but it was like, with 4 minutes left in the game and he was jacking up shots, and like, it did not feel that way with Mitchell at all. It went in the flow of the game, and that was why I loved it so much, and why I'm putting it up there for me as one of the most memorable performances, not only this season, but we will remember that for a long time.
Oh, I think that we'll remember this game forever. I mean, this will go down in at least in in Cleveland as one of, like you said, and we said earlier, one of, if not the best performances of all time. Single season. I think, me personally, I think if you're talking single individual performance, then yeah, if you're talking to,
Yes.
maybe a couple players in the game, like I said, probably LeBron, Kyrie in the finals. But if you're talking single player performance, I don't think, maybe LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Magic.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, that was a heck of a game. But I think that Mitchell putting up 71 points. I mean, he wanted this win. He wanted this win. They needed this win, and I think that's something that we really need to appreciate about Donovan Mitchell that I didn't know about him. I mean, we've covered basketball. The Cavs, you myself, last season, this season. Yeah, I've been an NBA fan my entire life. So, I'm not gonna say my age, but you guys know I'm getting up there.
Just look up Rajon Rondo's age. He said it last year.
Yeah, getting close to 40.
Yeah.
So, I've seen the evolution of the game from the late 80s to now. And I mean, that is just, I mean, you need that player who just has the dog in him. And we talked about this.
Exactly what I was
we
saying,
needed a player who had the dog in him. So we were like, someone like a Marcus Smart or someone like a Jay Crowder, someone who's willing to fight.
We weren't thinking a superstar. We got
exactly. Yeah. We weren't thinking that the best player on the team, that our superstar player was going to be that player. And he is thriving in Cleveland. I mean, we knew how good he was in Utah, but it seems like he has taken his game to the next level. And the other thing that we keep forgetting is this kid is only 26 years old.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I was thinking about this too. Is he already the second best player in Cavs history on the run?
I'm going to say not yet. I'm still going to say, well, okay. I think that whenever you ask that question, there's got to be some subjectiveness to it, because you can make arguments for some of those early 90s guys, Doherty, Mark Price, Mark Price, you might say Mark Price is the best shooter in the history of the Cavs.
Yeah.
But if you're saying all around player, I don't know if Mitchell in less than half a season has surpassed Kyrie yet. I don't know if Mitchell has even passed Kevin Love yet.
I would say
I would say that he's definitely. I would say if I had to make a list right now, LeBron would be number one, Kyrie would be number two, and Mitchell would be behind him at number three as far as entertaining to watch.
Okay.
Because you never know what this kid is going to do on any given night.
That's fair.
When you be talking about those early 90s guys, that was such fundamental, good, sound basketball. That was, that team, if Michael Jordan was not Michael Jordan, that team probably would have 3 or 4 rings.
So, as the viewers probably know, I cannot really speak to that team. I can only speak to the stories of that team.
You would have, who probably loves that team is our boy Clarence over from Brown and Orange Weekly.
Did they have a lot of 6'8" wings?
Oh my god! I mean, you had Brad Doherty, who was a 7-footer. You had Hot Rod Williams, who was like 6'8", 6'9", 6. I think he was 6'10". You had Larry Nance, who was 6'9", 6'10". Craig Elo was 6'7". You had Ron Harper on that team, Mark Price. They were shorter, but I mean, you had 3 guys that were probably 6'9" or taller in the starting rotation.
Did you hear this story? I was going to ask you. I don't know if you heard this story, and I forgot. Either Chris Fedor or Jason Lloyd from the Athletics. Somebody had it today, but Love is still in a text group with the 2016 championship team.
I did know that.
Yeah, and so when they were trading for Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Love sent a text to that group chat asking, "What would you give up to get Mitchell?" And I guess last night he said, "Well, it was worth whatever we gave up."
I mean, honestly, it was. You know what? And I mean, obviously, you got to take a cap off right now to Lauri Markkanen doing what he's doing.
Oh yeah,
out in Utah. I mean, he is. I mean, he was only 24 years old. He's 25 years old this year. He was 24 when we had him last year, and he was flashing. And we saw it. Me and you both saw it. We talked about it a lot on how good we thought he could be, and I can understand why the Jazz wanted Lauri in that deal. But I still think that us getting Donovan was the right fit, the right piece. And this is the beginning of the year, so
if that Donovan Mitchell. Not saying he's going to score 70 every night, obviously, but that efficient Donovan Mitchell, if you get that with Darius Garland every single night, if Darius Garland is healthy, and if you can get Evan Mobley back to even, I can't believe I'm saying this as we transition a little bit now, back to a semblance to what he was last year, this team, to me, that's where I said going into this year, I said this team can absolutely win the 2023 NBA championship. And that is the team, because as we mentioned, there are so many good players nowadays in the NBA. It really feels like you need not 2 to 3 superstars anymore like you used to, but you need 2 to 3 reliable, get a bucket, 20 to 25 point guys. And the Cavs have them, and we just saw again incredible performances last night. But you cannot ask Donovan Mitchell to do that, over and over and over again. I think we will see it. I think we'll see 1 to 2, throughout the rest of the season. But we also have to remember the calendar just turned to 2023. It's our first show. 2023 is January. And we also, as great as this is, I do not want to see Mitchell putting up 50 to 55 every single night, because 1, it's going to wear him down. Right. And 2, it also means that obviously parts of the team are not producing as well as they should.
Agreed 100%. But I also think that, I think that Garland's beat up a little bit. I know he's got that sprained finger. Mobley's been beat up. Allen's been beat up. Love, Jetty. Hopefully we're going to be getting Rubio back here very soon. I'm sure he'll be on a bench restriction, but that'll take a lot of pressure off of both Mitchell and Garland. And that's going to be really fun to watch too. Rubio on the court with Garland. Rubio, like we saw last year before he went down, when they were rolling. And then I'm really excited to see Rubio on the court with Garland. That's going to be something special.
You know what I think too? Like Rubio bringing the ball up a little more. We'll free Garland and Mitchell both. If they want to do some off screen, moving around a little bit like Steph Curry and Tatum do. Take the ball a little bit out of their hands, I think, and get them moving and force the defense to chase them, because that will then allow the setup for, again, if you want to anticipate and you're going to try to cut one of Garland or Mitchell off at the path, if Rubio is in the ball game, well then you're pretty much leaving the paint wide open for one of the Cavs big man for an easy basket.
Do you think that there is a situation where they're going to go really small ball and
I
have
was just
all
thinking of
three? And
three.
I think that'd be kind of fun if I'm going to
Yeah,
be honest.
man,
Rubio
I mean, how tall is Rubio?
Rubio is like 6 foot, 6 foot or six
That
one.
that that's what I'm wondering, because I know
So
Garland is as
Garland's 6'1", Mitchell's like 6'1" or
Mitchell
6'2".
6'1". So do you really
But
want to
let's
go?
right, but like how fun would it be? You have
So
three.
Rubio 6'2", so he would essentially be the small forward in that situation.
I see. For me, then this is what I would do, just because I think that it could open up possibilities. Is Rubio running point, Mitchell. I'm sorry, Garland at 2, Mitchell at the
Mitchell at the
3,
3.
and then Mobley and Allen 6'10",
Yeah,
7 feet.
I think if you do that, it would probably be against a team like Atlanta, or a team, a team that's not heavy, big inside, that you can beat off the dribble. Like I don't know if you can necessarily do that with Boston with their two bigs. I don't think you necessarily do it with Milwaukee. Philly, you could do it if Embiid was not on the court. I think, because outside of Embiid, they're pretty small. But I think it certainly would be interesting. Like if the Cavs are struggling offensively and they need a bucket.
A lot of firepower on the court.
We've talked a lot about how the Cavs don't have great wings. Maybe that's a little bit of an answer if you need a spark. Because the one thing we do know is, again, come postseason time, the rotation is going to be reduced a little bit. They always reduce it from about 10 to about 8 or 9 guys usually. So come to think of it, if Rubio's healthy, you could, I think, get Rubio, Garland, and Mitchell on the court at the same time. But I would love to see, some sort of double screen action where you have Garland going one way, Mitchell going one way. Maybe sometimes you have, them both start at the same time. One goes to one corner, one goes to the other corner. They can take a lot of practice and a lot of creativity. But Joey, you got my juices for it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it could be really fun. So we've talked about Mitchell's historic night, and I think that we're probably gonna be referencing this game for a long time to come, because I mean it was just absolutely incredible to watch. But I want to talk about two other things very quickly, and as quickly as we can. One is Mobley and Garland not being on the floor the last couple of games. And me and you have been hard on Evan Mobley thus far this season. And I want people to understand we're not hard on Evan Mobley because we think he's going to be a bust, or we're hard on Evan Mobley because we, just like pretty much everyone else in media, in the league, we know and we can see the potential that's there for him to become a superstar. It just doesn't seem like he's comfortable yet doing certain things to become that superstar. And me and Brandon talked before we came on, and this sounds bad. I'm gonna say it anyway, because I didn't like what I didn't really notice the difference between when Mobley's on the court and off the court the last couple of games. That impact that people say he has on the game without putting the stats up, I'm not seeing it. And I've been watching basketball a long time. I can tell when a player is making all the play, or is making a lot of plays away from, or, off the ball or on the ball, and making an impact without putting stats up. I'm not seeing that with Mobley. So people who are saying that, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what you're watching. Mobley has the opportunity to become a generational talent. I've said that so many times. I don't even know how many, but he's just not. He's not yet. And I don't know if maybe it's a year 3 thing, a year 4 thing, something that maybe JB's got to tweak, within the system. It's just something that, we don't know, but he's got to figure it out, and he's got to figure it out with Donovan Mitchell on this team.
So I don't know if people remember this, but before the season started, Evan Mobley was dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. And I had said, I think it was, I don't know, podcast episode number 50 or 51. I had said that I was starting to get concerned with Evan Mobley and him potentially being injury prone. Um, I am very fearful of a guy who has already had multiple injuries throughout his career, not only at USC, but with the Cavs. And I feel like I've been using the word force a lot in sports. It feels like a lot of injuries are happening, obviously, with collision and force. And I do think that because Evan Mobley is so tall, but because his body is so thin, that he is going to get hurt a lot throughout his NBA career. And I just think he's so athletic and so lengthy that a lot of times the force he comes down with on the court, it's more likely for him to twist an ankle and be out a couple games here, be out a couple games there. In regards to him not making as much of an impact on the court without him, I completely agree with you. It's funny because a couple weeks ago we were talking about, their defense doesn't look the same without Jared Allen in the court, and then they go out in the last two games, they really didn't play that great a defense. It's interesting, Joey, because I had a buddy of mine. I'm not gonna say his name or anything, but a buddy of mine. We're just we were just texting about the Cavs the other night, and he said to me something interesting, and I thought about it, because we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but he asked me, he said, "Do you think Jared Allen and Evan Mobley can play together?" And I said, "Well, for some reason last year it worked, and this year it hasn't worked out for whatever reason. It feels like Mobley is invisible on the court." Um, and so he had said to me an interesting comment. I'm not saying trade Jared Allen by any means, but his thinking was, well, JA has probably a lower ceiling, obviously, than Mobley, and he thinks that pretty much this is what you're going to get out of JA is what you're getting right now, and that Mobley is probably better suited for the 5 position, which I really don't know. I don't know if Mobley has the body to play the 5. I said going in, I think he has the body right now to play more of the 4. And from what I saw last year, he looked more comfortable playing the 4 than the 5. Sometimes he looked lost in the 5 last year. This year it feels like the complete opposite. He doesn't know what to do with the 4, and he knows what to do with the 5. So I think it's just a confidence thing. I think he needs to touch the basketball more. I think sometimes he feels like he's not getting enough touches, so he's not getting into the flow of the game. In regards to Garland, like Garland also, again, he's a small guard. He's going to get nicked. He's going to get hurt. He's been hurt throughout his career, but he's also been beat up in the face all season long. He's a special talent. I'm not worried yet about DG. I think though, again, I think it's not as bad as Kyrie, because obviously Kyrie Irving had chronic knee problems pretty much while he was here in Cleveland and missed a lot of time. But when you are that small of a guard, and the same thing can be said for what we saw with Colin Sexton, for what we could see, God bless, knock on wood, for Donovan Mitchell. At that size, at a point guard, when you are going into the lane, when you are going into the basket, and you are surrounded by all these 6'11", 6'12", 7 foot, big men, you're going to get it. You're going to get knocked around. You're going to go to the floor. You're going to get your shot blocked. You're going to get your hand caught, and it just comes with the game, which to me shows again how important the Cavs bench is. Which sometimes it feels like they play better when half those bench guys are in the starting lineup when those guys go missing.
Yeah, and we've been without Dean Wade now for quite a while, and he was really having a great season coming off the bench. He's been a catalyst in a lot of those early games. And as far as DG goes, in my mind, DG is still an all-star. Darius Garland is still an all-star. But he's going to get banged up. He's amongst the trees down there trying to get to the rim. he's going to get banged up. I do think it's unfortunate because it seems like every single game he's getting punched in the face by somebody.
Yeah, which is why, though, by the way, re-signing Ricky Rubio was so important, because knowing that you have a guy that, they always say, like, in football, if a player is injury prone, make sure you have a really good backup. The same thing applies in basketball, and I think, obviously Garland, we know he's going to get banged up. I think Ricky Rubio, really good system guy, can fit the system. And as I was just saying, I think, you can make the same analogy with Mobley. It's just the opposite, because he's so tall. Again, I feel like sometimes he's so tall, and his body is so thin. And sometimes when he does go up, and when he is effective, he comes down with so much force. It's not natural. Like your body, a lot of people, normal humans' bodies aren't built, in Garland's case, to be that small and taking that much punishment. And in Mobley's case, it's not really built to go up and, high fly all over the place.
But I see, and that's where I do disagree with you on that. You're talking about professional athletes who've been playing, most of them have been playing this game their entire life, who, their bodies are trained to take that amount of punishment. And yeah, you're gonna get sprained ankles and sprained fingers and sore backs and all that stuff. So that's just nature of the game. But these are professional athletes who, even in the off season, are still working out to maintain their endurance, to maintain, the muscle that they have, to maybe put some more on, maybe so they can take the, the punishment, or maybe take some off so they're faster and they don't have to. These are professionals who have been doing this. So I think that, I think they know their bodies. They, obviously they all have trainers. Their trainers know what's going on, and through the course of the season, you're going to get banged up, but it's expected. I mean, Evan Mobley is 7 feet tall. He's been probably, I know he's been tall mostly. He's not like one of the, not like an Anthony Davis who went from 6'2" to 6'10" in the span of a season in high school.
Some guys, though, as well as I do, injuries are weird. Some guys
are just more injury prone than others.
Some guys can be at the same height and never get injured, and some guys are the same height and they're injured throughout their career. It's just how, different bodies, I guess, and how, some of it may be how they, go about their routine and taking care of themselves. But I will tell you right now, I'm not as worried. But if both of them really, if both of them get one more significant injury, where they're out, 2, 3, 4 weeks.
You knock on wood. You knock on wood right now.
There's a trend there. Like Mobley was hurt before the season, and I said it when he was hurt in the preseason. I said, I don't love it. I don't like it when guys already come into the season banged up, because you're never going to be healthy throughout the season, and then you're going to try to overcompensate for that injury, and down the line, something worse is going to happen. Usually, that's what always happens.
Brandon, we have talked about Darius Garland. We've talked about Evan Mobley not being available. I want to move on to one quick thing, a very early thing. I said we were going to be, once the new year rolled over, we were going to talk about it. Is there a player out there that you think might be available that you would bring to this Cavs team, that you think the Cavs should try and make a move for? And mind you, let me also preface this statement with this: you are going to have to get rid of somebody. There's no way we traded our picks for Mitchell. We don't have first round picks no more, unless someone wants to take picks, in the 2030s. So there are players that are going to have to be gone. Is there somebody out there that you're kind of looking at going, is he going to be available? And do the Cavs have the firepower to try and get him?
I can't think of a name off the top of my head. I will tell you, I think that there are a couple players, and I think you probably know who they are, that I would make available if I was the Cavs. Now,
I don't.
one would be a Koro.
Okay.
I don't know what you would get for a Koro, but one would be a Koro, and the other one depends on what would be included in the package. But I would be willing, because he is on an expiring contract, to dangle Karsler. I would be willing to dangle Levert based on if you could package Levert and a Koro and see what is out there. I think we all know what this team needs. Um, and see. And now I get it, Brandon. Those guys both fit the mold of wings and what the Cavs need. I understand that, but if you can get a better player than both those guys, that again is a reliable 3-and-D guy, I think you could make the argument. Let's package both these guys up. I think for some reason, I think somebody might be willing to take the bite on a Coro just because he's a top 5 pick. Some teams may think he needs a change of scenery, and they may see something in him the Cavs don't. I think a contending team would be willing to take on Levert's expiring contract. The question would be, what would they be willing to give up? Probably not much. But those would be the two players. Maybe you include Jetty in there, maybe. Though as we know, Jetty is one of the hottest and coldest players on the team. I would not dangle Love at all. Kevin Love's completely off my block because I just think the championship, the playoff experience, the veteranship, the leadership in that locker room is so important. He's still playing at a relatively high role off the bench. So
I think. Well, and I also think that we can re-sign Love at a very good deal, both player and team. Something that's not going to be out of the maybe 2 years. Maybe 2 years, 8 million a year.
I don't know, just because I haven't. I mean, I wasn't really prepared for the question. I haven't done.
I know, that's why I asked it.
I haven't done enough research to tell you, like, oh, for sure that guy could be available on this team, and maybe the Cavs do some dancing for him. I haven't really thought about it that much. So I can't. We've thrown some names out there. But I don't really know if they're available. I know we've talked to, obviously Cam Reddish is available. What the Knicks are going to do with him, who knows? There's been some rumors that Cavs are going to try to get Kyle Kuzma. I don't see that happening.
That's not going to happen.
So, I mean, Montrezl Harrell's a guy who I wanted in free agency, and Philly's not really using him. Is he over the ill potentially? Is he a guy that maybe the Cavs can go get? I don't know.
I think if you're looking, number one, I think if you're looking at needs, the Cavs absolutely need a wing. They don't really have a true wing on this team. Not one. There's not one player who I would consider. The only player who I would actually consider maybe a true wing would be Jetty. And like you said, he's extremely hot and cold. Some nights, he's one of the catalysts off the bench for a good team win. And other nights, he's not even on the floor. So, what's going on there? I don't know. But a lot of these players, it's hard to say I will trade them. Like, it's hard for me to say I would trade Lamar Stevens, or I would trade Dean Wade, or I would trade Caris LeVert or Isaac Okoro, because there's been games where they've really had an impact in helping win. Just a couple of games ago, Isaac Okoro, great game defensively, put up 10 points, 5 boards. I think he had 2 or 3 blocks, like two assists. Now, you're not talking superstar numbers, but you're talking about, for a guy coming off the bench, those are good numbers, and he definitely helped the Cavs in a win. So there's a couple of names. One is Cam Reddish, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with him in the Knicks, but he's not playing at all. I don't remember the last time he played. I was, maybe would an Okoro for Reddish deal work straight up one-on-one? Because I think the Knicks would actually play Okoro, and Okoro might actually, defensively help the Knicks.
And as you know, Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks head coach, is a defensive, grinded out. He plays a lot of his guys, a lot of minutes. From all reports, a very hard-nosed defensive coach. I think Okoro, he may not fit in well to the New York media market, but he would certainly fit well into that team.
If you want to go, a couple. If you want to go a big name that I just don't believe the Cavs have the firepower to get. Although I don't, and there's been reports out there, and I'll talk about it in a second. But the name, the guy is OG Anunoby.
You told me about this a couple weeks ago.
From Toronto. Love the kid, love his game. True wing. He's on a team right now that's got Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent, a lot of players who can score a lot of points. So he's just chugging along right now, still young. But they are supposedly asking for what the Jazz got for Donovan Mitchell,
which to me is absolutely crazy. I think he's probably worth about a first round pick and maybe one or two rotational players. That to me would be about it. But again, the Cavs don't have a first round pick. No. which I'm super stoked that we don't, obviously, but it makes trading harder. But the point, but I think people do have to realize this: when you trade for a player like Donovan Mitchell, when you add the amount of talent that you have on the team with Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Allen, etc., you're going to have a hole on your roster. Like, every roster is not going to be perfect. A lot of times it comes down to who do you have and who's healthy versus who does the other team have and who's healthy, and how you match up against certain teams.
Where's the hole on the Boston Celtics?
To be honest with you, I don't like their bigs that much. A
healthy Robert Williams, and I know he's old, but a healthy Al Horford is a really good center power forward.
It's decent, but it's not like, it's. I think like I think the Cavs, who already beat Boston twice, like, that's a great matchup for the Cavs, because I think that inside, that's a win for the Cavs. But I think Boston, the advantage for them is outside wing. They have two great wings, obviously, in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So again, it's the makeup of your roster. The problem with the Cavs is with what you're dealing with in the East is you're going to be dealing with more than likely Jason Tatum, a Jimmy Butler, a Jaylen Brown, a Giannis.
If Jimmy Butler is healthy.
Yeah, so that's the problem, is it feels like all the main key guys that the Cavs are going to be dealing with in the postseason is a wing. But it also feels like the teams the Cavs are going up against, outside of maybe Philly, and I'm trying to cut you off, but their weakness is at big.
If I'm the Cavs, I'm looking to see what it would take to get OG. I'm looking. For sure. I'm looking at. I'm calling it because Toronto. You know what? And this upsets me to say this. Toronto is in the bottom of the East right now. Not the very bottom, but they are the third from the bottom.
Like 11th or 12th. I know they'd be out of the play-in tournament right now.
And we've lost to them three times. I mean, it's upsetting because number one, you do look at that team, and there is a lot of talent on that team. There is a ridiculous amount of talent on the Toronto Raptors team. But if they're down there, maybe they need to shake something up. Maybe something's not working, So I'm calling them up, seeing what they would want for OG Anunoby. I like the kid's game. I don't think we have the firepower. If I'm being 100% honest, I think that they would. I think without a pick, who I think they would ask for?
Let me think. Without a pick.
Without a pick.
They would probably, my guess would be, Laverne might be one of them. My guess is they're gonna ask for one of Allen, maybe.
They would want Mobley. They would want Mobley.
There's no way they're taking Mobley.
I could tell you right now, without a pick, any big splash the Cavs would make before the trade deadline is every team is going to ask for Mobley.
Well,
and the Cavs are not going to do it.
Okay, I'm going to throw this crazy trade scenario out at you. I'm going to throw this crazy fantasy trade. You call Boston.
Oh God.
I would give up Jared Allen if it means if we could get Jaylen Brown. Because I think you could have Mobley at the 5, You could put Love at the 4. You could put Dean Wade at the 4. You have Garland, Mitchell, Brown.
I'm not. I. You know what? And here's the thing. I don't think that the. Excuse me. There it was. I thought I was going to get through an entire show without coughing, but I don't.
I mean,
think
is that a crazy trade?
it's a crazy trade because Boston wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Boston wouldn't do it because Robert Williams, when healthy, is a very good center. I think that they would ask for Mobley. Now, here's that. I think that would be the bigger question is would you trade Evan Mobley for Jaylen Brown?
Ooh.
That's the question.
Joey, I can't believe it because 3 months ago I would have told you absolutely no.
3 months ago, I still don't know. I think me and you have talked about this.
We said Evan Mobley was untradeable outside of Trae Young. You teased me with Trae Young.
I teach with Trae Young. Yeah, we had this conversation, but I think I'm not saying that that I would trade Evan Mobley because I think that Evan Mobley still is going to be a generational talent. But I'm saying if you look at the makeup of this team right now, I mean, you would have Darius Garland at 1, Donovan Mitchell at 2, Jaylen Brown at 3. I could go play power forward I'm 6'1", and Jared Allen at the 5, and we would probably make it to the finals.
That's a champion. I mean, for sure, that's a championship team.
But I don't know. I don't know if if any big trade like that, you're going to have to give up your biggest piece. And to me, the player that everyone would want is going to be Evan Mobley. So the question, and if all you guys listening out there, is there a trade in the NBA that you would make that would send Evan Mobley to another team for another superstar back? Do you think that or is Evan Mobley? Are you all in on Evan Mobley? You want to see where it goes, or is there a piece right now that you're like, this is going to get us to the next level?
I will tell you one thing. Because obviously we don't think it's gonna happen, but if the Cavs, if Evan Mobley, I should say, does not improve by the time this offseason, if the end of this season goes like the way this season has gone so far for Mobley, and we're sitting here in the offseason and we are looking at what do the Cavs need to get over the hump in the East, and Mobley is still playing the way he is, I think it's a different conversation. I think right now you don't consider it because I want to have this and I don't and you know this about me and I feel the same way about you. We try our best on this podcast to be objective as possible. We don't try to be fanboys or anything like that, but we both feel so strong about Evan Mobley that you can't just it feels incredible. It's like, dude, get your shit together.
Here's the thing is I don't know if there's a player that I would honestly give up Evan Mobley for. I mean, you're within reason. Like, I'm not talking, someone says, oh, if we'll give you Luka Doncic for Evan Mobley. Okay, yeah, okay. Obviously at that point, but I'm talking within reason, a Jaylen Brown, an OG Anunoby, who's not even nearly as good as Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown showed me a lot in the fight, even though they lost against Golden State. I know we talked about it a little bit. I thought Jaylen Brown personally had a better series than Tatum in that series, and I told you constantly, I believe in guys that play well in the postseason. I think it's different. You are under the lights. You are on national television. You're playing the best teams. You're playing a series constantly. They know you. You know them. Jaylen Brown impressed me a lot because last year the deadline you asked me what I traded for Jaylen Brown and I said no, I didn't see that yet. So far from what I saw in the finals and then this year it came combined and looks like Tatum's getting on again. We'll see what they do come the postseason. I would love to see the Cavs match up with them. I think that'd be a very interesting matchup. It's a very interesting offseason, but we are about a month away from the NBA trade deadline. Joey, we still got a lot of time to talk about it. I do want to quickly.
It had to be asked in the first episode of 2023 because I guarantee that trade deadline is going to be here faster than I mean, it always seems to fly. And one more thing before we get to the games. And this is just a statement, not a question. You can agree with me or not. Donovan Mitchell is not going to win the MVP. I'm sorry to tell every Cavs fan. I am devastated myself, but I will let you know that Luka Doncic will win the MVP this season. That's just the way it is. But Donovan Mitchell should be in the conversation.
If we are playing stockbroker, I would say hold your stock on that. I'm not selling it. I'm not buying it yet because I do think Luka Doncic is in the lead. But knock on wood. If Doncic stays healthy, he's probably going to win the MVP. But I don't think it's over yet.
No, but I think that you got Luka, you got Giannis, you got Jokic, you got other players who probably would overtake who are probably going to win the MVP, but Donovan Mitchell should 100% be in that conversation, especially after last night.
Mitchell for sure is in my top 3 right now because when I look at MVP, to me, and I get it probably is a stat award, but I always look at the word valuable. That to me, and that's a huge debate with MVP. We talked about this last year, right? It's like, what is the word valuable? Like, if the Cavs don't have Donovan Mitchell for half these games, where are they at in the Eastern Conference? They're probably in the play-in tournament, I would imagine. They're still in the playoffs, but they're not nearly as good 2.5, 3 games out. That's where I think Mitchell increases his case for that MVP odds. Joey, we are going to do this preview a little bit of a rapid style today because I know that we are kind of running a little bit on time with this podcast. We talked a long time today. I think it's been a great conversation tonight. We really already previewed this game last week because we weren't sure when we were going to record. Obviously, Mitchell's performance last night prompted us to record tonight. But we got Phoenix tomorrow night before we hit the West Coast. Talked about it last week. Devin Booker not back for Phoenix. Listen, when you have a 71-point game like that, to me, it can really go one or two ways the next game. Either the team itself, I feel like, either comes out really fired up and they play really well, or there's somewhat of a little bit of a letdown after a historic performance like that. I do think the Cavs get a very hard-fought victory tomorrow night, and I think they need it because I do not like going to the West Coast for the extended trip that the Cavs have, and they don't have 2 days off until the end of January. But I really do feel like that this team needs a win because I like leaving your hometown with a victory before a very long West Coast trip.
I agree 100%. I think the Cavs take the win against the Suns.
Well, and then they will go to Denver to take on that MVP candidate, as you mentioned, Jokic, Jamal Murray, and the Denver Nuggets. I don't know if anybody's going to be doing the Nugget Challenge or not. I personally will not be. But go ahead if somebody wants to do it. Tweet at us at All Things Cavs. We will shout you out on the next podcast. I think this has the potential to be a very high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a very close game. And I'm going to say, listen, if the Cavs play well for 4 quarters, they can beat Denver, but they have struggled on the road, hoping that win against Chicago kickstarts them on the road. I think it's very close, 3-4 point game, but I'm going to feel optimistic here start the West Coast trip. I'm going to say the Cavs win this game.
I'm actually going to answer this kind of in a different way.
Okay.
If Mobley and Garland are back, I think the Cavs win. If one of them is not back yet, I think Denver wins.
I like it. Now, after that, 2 days later, they'll take on the Suns in Phoenix. I think the Cavs, no matter what happens, if they lose tomorrow, they will beat Phoenix in Phoenix. If they win against Phoenix here, they will lose to Phoenix in Phoenix. I think they split the season series with the Suns.
I think without Devin Booker, the Cavs are going to take this one too. I think the Cavs are just going to pick on the Suns. They got the firepower. And again, if Garland's back or if Mobley's back, they're just gonna it's gonna be maybe too much for the Suns, who are still a very good team even without Devin Booker. But I mean, Devin Booker before this injury was showing that he really was one of, if not the best shooting guards in the league. So without Devin Booker, I think the Cavs take both games.
Now, Joey, the final preview on this list is about a week from tonight. The Cavs will be in Utah for Donovan Mitchell's return against the Utah Jazz. We saw what we did to them in Cleveland. That does scare me a little bit, considering I think Utah is going to really want to come out and play well in that game. Last year, we know what happened in Utah. It was pretty much the Lamar Stevens game. Lamar Stevens went crazy, I believe, put up over 20 points in that third quarter as the Cavs took out a Jazz team that I don't believe Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert were playing in that game. A very tricky game because I think Utah is going to, again, really want to play well. And for some reason, I think this is a closer game. I think Utah gets their revenge, quote unquote, on Donovan Mitchell, and they walk away with a close victory.
So for the first time this season, I am going to actually agree and say the Cavs.
Oh, wow.
I got to start going with my predictions at the beginning of the year. I do think that the Cavs are going to lose against the Utah, and I think it's going to be, Markkanen obviously wants, in Utah is going to have a big game. There's some good. I mean, there are some good players. Jordan Clarkson, who was a Cav. We know that he can put up numbers. I really like Malik Beasley from Utah. Yeah, on Utah. He can have a good game. Mike Conley's obviously up there, but crafty veteran.
Sexton's not back, I don't believe, correct?
But you have Vanderbilt, another big guy who could, so you got guys who can match up with Allen and Mobley. You got good shooters. It's a very tough team. You said we played them earlier in the year, and I think the Cavs, are going to drop this one to the Jazz. But I think that, like I said, I think if Mobley and Garland return, the Cavs are going to go 3-1 on this trip.
Bare minimum, they should go 2-2. They can absolutely go 3-1. I completely agree with you. They could even go 4-0. But it really depends on the health of obviously Garland and Mobley, and then how they play. And with that, we're going to go and wrap things up today for episode number 62 of All Things Cavs. Make sure to follow that man to my left at Goodfellow_Joey on Twitter. Follow me personally at BrandonLewis_7. You can follow the show at All Things Cavs. Joey, this was one. I know we talked about a lot of fun episodes that we've had in the past. Obviously, every week we have a ball here on ATC, but there are some episodes that are some of our favorites more than others. I gotta say, this I think was one of our best overall flowing, productive podcasts as the Cavs get ready now to go on a wild West Coast trip in the middle of January. They're getting away from that Cleveland cold and going out west to take on some of this Arizona heat before they're heading out to Utah.
Yeah, before they go back to the Utah cold and the Denver cold. You know what? There's just shows that you're really excited to do, and especially after you do a show after, Donovan Mitchell puts up 71 in a historic night. Congratulations to Spida. I mean, he deserves every bit of it. Someone who came into Cleveland and wanting to be accepted, wanting to be part of the city, and this city has just shown him as much love as you possibly can get. I mean, we've welcomed him with open arms, and he has really produced and shown that he is a superstar that we traded for. So it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And I would say one of my other favorite episodes was the episode when we traded for Spida.
Yeah.
That was just a phenomenal episode. If you guys haven't listened, go back and check it out. We have 60 or 62 now.
This is 62.
62 episodes. If you haven't checked them out, go and check them out. And Brandon, I think there's only one thing left to do, and you know what it is, buddy.
And that is to let know.